This is People of the State of Michigan versus Travis Varesh, docket number 21-254FH. And this is the time set for a plea in this matter. Mr. Varesh, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Varesh, you have the right to be represented by an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Petrovich. And Mr. Petrovich, is this a plea to the charge?
Hold on. Yes, Your Honor. I just didn't notice whether I was unmuted or not. But yes, it will be a plea to the charge.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stevens, would you read the charge, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. People of the State of Michigan versus Travis Varesh, docket 21254FH, State of Michigan, County of Ingham. The name of the people of the State of Michigan, the prosecuting attorney for this county, appears before the court and informs the court that on or about the date of March 12th, 2021, at or near the location of Bench and Perkins in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, the defendant did in count 1 carry a dangerous weapon, to wit, a pistol, whether concealed or otherwise, in a vehicle operated or occupied by said defendant, to wit, a pickup truck, contrary to state law. That offense is known as weapons carrying concealed. It's a felony punishable by 5 years and or $2,500 fine, mandatory forfeiture of weapon or device. Court shall order law enforcement to collect DNA identification profiling samples before sentencing or disposition if not taken at arrest. And this was done against the peace and dignity of the people of the state of Michigan.
Mr. Varesh, you're being charged here with carrying a pistol in an automobile. That is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. If you were on parole at the time of the offense, it would be a mandatory consecutive sentence. Have you had enough time to talk about this charge with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
Good. Do you understand the charge against you?
I understand it completely, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions about what we're doing?
No questions at all. I understand.
Okay. And how do you want to plead?
To the plea, I plead guilty.
Okay. If your plea of guilty is accepted by this court, it means you won't have a trial of any kind, and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with a trial. I have to go through those with you, Mr. Varesh. It means you're giving up your right to a trial by jury, or if you didn't want trial by jury, trial by judge. You'll give up your right to be presumed innocent and until proven guilty, and to require the prosecutor to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You'll give up your right to have the witnesses against you appear at the trial and to be able to cross-examine them. You'll give up your right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the trial. You'll give up your right to remain silent at the trial and not to have your silence used against you, or in the alternative, the right to testify yourself if you wanted to. There's also some things that are different about appeals when you plead guilty. One is you don't get an automatic right to have the higher court hear your case. Instead, you'd have to ask them to hear it. They would have to agree. And the other thing that's different is that when you plead guilty, there are many issues you cannot appeal to the Court of Appeals, unlike people who go to trial, who, if they get convicted, they can appeal pretty much everything. Do you understand those rights, Mr. Varesh?
I understand, Your Honor.
Also, if I accept your plea, it means you cannot come back later on and try to claim that the plea was the result of some promise or threat that no one told me about today. Do you understand that?
Of course, Your Honor, I understand.
It also means you cannot come back later on and try to say that it really wasn't your own choice to plead guilty today. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
Is there a plea agreement, Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant will be pleading guilty to the charge, count 1. Pursuant to the plea agreement, the parties agree, specifically the people agree not to authorize any additional charges arising out of this event, specifically, including but not limited to discharging a firearm from a motor vehicle. The defendant agrees, pursuant to this plea agreement, to pay for any restitution caused and damage to any vehicles associated with this event. And finally, the people have no objection to inpatient treatment in lieu of jail.
Is that a full and complete statement, Mr. Petrovich?
It is, Your Honor.
And Mr. Varesh, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, it is.
Do you agree with it?
Yes.
Now, right now, I don't know what your sentence will be, and I haven't made any deals with anyone about your sentence. Are you clear
Oh, I
on that?
apologize. I was Your Honor, I was under the impression the sentence would be something over a year of probation and parole, is what I was told by my attorney.
Well, I mean, that's a possibility, but I mean, they've stated the plea agreement, and there's no agreement about specifically about getting probation or jail or anything. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know what your sentence will be, and that isn't part of this. I haven't made any agreement with anyone as part of this. I have all those options on the table.
Oh, all right. That is news to me. I thought I was told at the time of the plea it was guaranteed no jail time, and I was told I thought a year and a half of probation.
I did not hear a Killebrew agreement of no upfront jail.
I believe that may be from discussions of effectively the guidelines range and likely effect of the people's recommendation of the treatment in lieu of the jail time on that. I believe that came from what was likely to happen rather than what was definitively going to happen. As far as certain things like the length of probation for this, we discussed the probable lengths of probation for that, as well as running prior guidelines, which would put Mr. Varesh in a clear recommendation for a probationary type of sentence. So I do believe it is likely, though I have been, since he began speaking, I've been searching for any record of any additional aspects of the plea agreement. And I do believe that was what was communicated.
So, Mr. Varesh, as your attorney just said, he may have discussed likelihoods or possibilities or options with you, but I have not been involved in those discussions. So while he can, as your attorney, and he should, discuss potentials with you and possibilities, I'm just saying I haven't agreed to anything, and I'm not bound by anything.
Understood, Your Honor.
Does that clarify for you?
Clarifies and terrifies, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Okay, do you want to go forward with your plea?
Yeah. So,
Yes? Okay. So my next question then is related to that. Has anyone promised you anything else that hasn't been said here right now in order to get you to plead guilty?
Not that I'm aware of at this time, no.
Has anyone used any threats to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Is it your own choice to do this?
Yes.
And are you doing it because you believe you are in fact guilty of this offense?
Under the state of Michigan laws, I am, yes.
Okay, so tell me then what you did on or about March 12th, 2021.
March 12th, I was drinking earlier on March 11th and slept for a few hours and went for a drive when I didn't know I was intoxicated. The wife and I were going to go to the shooting range. I had placed the said firearm in the glove box, and when I was driving, my truck had been having brake issues, and the brakes finally went, and the car brought to a stop, and when it did, it fell to the side. Officers arrived on scene, and I had explained where the firearm was, and then explained that I had bullets on me, and that's when I was charged.
Okay, so the firearm was where in your vehicle?
In the glove box, Your Honor. Before the accident, it was locked up, but I had broken my arm in the accident, which I was unaware of, and the adrenaline didn't register, and I couldn't relock it. So I wanted to the first words out of my mouth were to the officers where it was, or right around there, something like that. I know it was pretty quick when that. I didn't want to lie about it. I didn't want them to feel it at all.
Okay, so when did you put it in the glove box?
Earlier that day.
All right, so you had placed it there and you knew that it was there?
Yes, it was in the afternoon at some point, and I had, as I said, drank earlier that day, and I wasn't thinking about it.
Okay.
So,
and that was a handgun or a pistol, correct?
yes, Your Honor.
Was it loaded?
No, it wasn't. The bullets were on me, in my coat. It was not loaded, no.
Was it in a locked container at all?
No, I considered the glove compartment as the container that should have been locked.
Okay, well, it's not, so, and this happened at Bench and Perkins in Lansing, Ingham County?
Roughly, Your Honor, yes.
Sure. Has the court complied with MCR 6.302, Mr. Stevens?
We have, Your Honor.
Mr. Petrovich?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record, Mr. Stevens?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Petrovich?
No, Your Honor.
The court finds the plea is understandingly and voluntarily made without undue influence, threats, or promises of leniency. It is an accurate plea. It's supported by the testimony. The plea is accepted. Sentencing is Monday, August 30 at 2:45. I'm going to do that in person. We're doing more in person these days now that we're fully open and with no restrictions. So, Mr. Varesh, you'll need to be in front of me then on Monday, August 30th at 2:45. Mr. Petrovich, I forgot to check with you if that date's okay.
That will work for me.
Okay, Mr. Varesh, in the next day, you'll need to contact the probation department. If you need their contact information, Mr. Petrovich can provide it for you, but you'll need to tell them that you have to set up an interview. They do that interview so they can gather information about you and put it in the report that I'll use for sentencing, so it's very important. Will you do that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Your bond is continued, and unless there's anything further, we are all done with our hearing.
And Mr. Varesh, I'll text you that number for probation and